Good morning, YouTube. Another how-to. Today's how-to is actually going to be a wheel build 101. We have this nice Haro carbon bike. Well, it's got steel spokes on it. We got carbon rims, we got carbon forks, carbon frame. We don't want steel spokes. Courtesy of J&R Bicycles, where I ordered these. We got 2 packs of titanium spokes. Definitely makes your wheels lighter, obviously. The whole concept of lighter bike wheels is the rotational weight. If you have heavy wheels on your bike, it's like having a little bit stiffer gear on your bike, or harder gear. So yeah, you want to keep your wheels light as possible, and you want to keep the outers light. You know, like when you have a heavy hub, it's not so much because the mass isn't so much on the outside, but when it comes start on the far outside, I have the Maxxis Torch tires, one of the lightest tires you can get. So you want lightweight tires, you want lightweight tubes, you want lightweight rims, and then after all that, you want lightweight spokes. Take the wheels off, we're gonna take it apart and show you guys how to put those back together. All right, we got our wheels off the bike. Take all the air out of the tires because we need to take the tires off the rims. My rims are the Avian Carbon Race Wims. Well, carbon race rims. Also have the Avian cranks and the Avian carbon forks. Carbon rims sit a little deeper, so got my bitch to get off sometimes. Thought I could muscle it. I need tire levers. There we go. 1, 2. All right, so tires are removed. So find yourself a nice comfy seat because this is actually gonna take a little bit of time. We're gonna loosen every nipple. We're gonna do that carefully. You don't wanna just throw a screwdriver in there because we're gonna reuse these nipples. So we wanna make sure to save as much bite on these, and you don't wanna round them off. Because if you round them off and you gotta tighten it back together, then it's just gonna make your life that much harder. Here we go. So we're not gonna use this screw. I'm gonna show you how to do this on the bike. No excuses, people. For the ones that don't have a trimming stand, I know you got a set of forks. This technique for wheel building will actually work on BMX bikes or mountain bikes. Your traditional BMX wheel is 36 spokes. A mountain bike is normally 32 spokes. If you're a mountain biker and you came across this video, the same concept works for your mountain bike wheels as well. Don't worry about making this tight. We just want to have a secure area for the wheel not to move. If you have no intentions on saving these spokes, just cut them. Snip every one of them, and then you can take the nipples off from there. All right, so taking the wheel apart, start at the valve hole, and that way you at least just know where you started. But no particular order on these. Just go through every one and loosen up. I like to go through and loosen one side. So in this case, I'm loosening the right side, and as I loosen the right side, the left side is pulling the rim this way because these spokes are obviously tight. As they're pulling, they're actually loosening up every one. So I go through every other spoke on one side and I break them loose. Then it makes the whole other half a little easier. Now we're gonna use a screwdriver to take the rest out. Ah, damn it. I stand corrected. Rim's too deep. I'm gonna make a tool for this. So I found an old flathead wrench that had a broke handle. We're gonna chop this, grind it down, and make it fit inside there, then put it in my drill bit. Moment of truth. Oh, that's the ticket. We're cruising now. All the nipples are loose and out. So, one thing, especially with carbon rims, be careful taking the spokes out because the spokes will scratch your carbon rims pretty easy. And you don't really want to have carbon products with scratches in them. Just be very careful when you take them out. They're all loose. Oh, set myself in the face. Spokes and hubs. Still some nipples in there. We're gonna take off all the spokes to the left side of the logo. We're gonna keep those together. Then we're gonna take all the spokes from the right side of the logo, and we're gonna keep those together. Take your cog off, because if this cog's on, if you look at it right here, there's no way to get to the holes, and you won't be able to get your spokes out. So glad I caught that. I learned how to do this when I was super young. My dad ordered a VHS called Wheel Building 101. I'm pretty sure I still have it somewhere. And I was probably 12 or 13. And literally 20 years later, here I am making my own video, Wheel Building 101. And I hope my video helps you youngsters. 172 millimeter, 3 times, that's 3 cross. That means the spokes are gonna cross another spoke 3 times. Drive side, rear on Avian. So that's, these are the drive side of my rear. Glad I checked. That's the only size difference because every other one is a 176 millimeter spoke, also 3 cross. When ordering your spokes, obviously you probably don't know your spoke length, but whoever you're ordering it from should know. So you give them your hub and your rim, and they should have all the measurements on what you would need. We got 36 hole wheel. So we're gonna start on one side, so half 36, what's that? That's 18, and then we're only gonna do every other spoke. So to start off, we need 9 spokes. If you're building a 32 hole mountain bike wheel, you're gonna need, what's that, 16, 7, you're gonna need 8 spokes. We're gonna start on the top side, lay your wheel sideways. You're on the top flange. Doesn't matter what hole you start with, you're gonna drop a spoke into every other hole. So now we have our hub. Spokes are dropped downwards into this flange. For a mountain bike wheel, you're gonna have a disc on this side. So this side is actually probably, the left side of the front hub is probably your shorter side. That's for mountain bikers. All right, let's take one spoke. We find the valve stem. And so the holes are normally offset a little bit. You can kind of tell in the middle a little bit how each hole is offset from one another. That's because the hole, instead of being right down the center, sometimes the hole is drilled to the left for the left spokes and more to the right for the right spokes. So we're on the left side of the hub. So we're gonna start with this hole right next to the valve, which is off to the left side of the rim. Like I said, one hole from the valve. When you put these nipples on, just give it a few threads. You don't want to thread it in all the way. It's just enough to hold it. There's still plenty of room because you want to keep it loose while we're building it up. So what you're gonna do now, you're gonna skip 3 holes. So you're gonna go to your 4th spoke hole. Make sure you don't miss this step, because if you miss one or put it in the wrong hole and you get all the way around, this can actually screw you up later, and it's very easy to miss it and go in the wrong hole. See? We have one side. Now let's flip the wheel over. Now we're gonna do the left side. Kind of a tricky part, not really tricky, but a very important part. If we got the hub in a straight line, straight up here. Right, that's the valve hole. And now the spokes, as we flipped it over, the spoke is to the left of the valve hole. Well, if you look down here, if you follow it down to these holes, this side, if you look, see how these 2 holes on this side, that spoke is actually in the center. So we're actually gonna go, we wanna work away from the valve. So we're gonna go to this hole. So that's one to the left. So when that lines up down here, we wanna go one to the left here. So we're gonna put this spoke right here. See how it falls to the left? And then it comes up and it's gonna go right to that hole. So now that we know where that is, we're gonna drop one. We're gonna drop a spoke in every other hole, and we're gonna do the same thing we did on the other side. Follow it up, one hole to the left of what we already did. Notice the heads are on the outside on both sides. And now we need to put them in the opposite way and fill in the rest of the holes. 7, 8, 9. You're gonna go on the inside and drop them in all the existing holes on the opposite side. You know, we started on the valve hole. Notice how right now it's twisted that way. So the valve's here. If you have a stem, this spoke is actually gonna be in the way of your valve stem. So that's gonna make it hard to obviously put air in your tire. See, and now my hub turned the other way. When you have your valve stem, you got plenty of room to put a tire pump or something on there. do not cross that one. So we started from the valve and we worked away from the valve. So what we're gonna do is you wanna turn the hub, pulls the spoke away from the valve stem. So the cross is how many times this top spoke crosses this lower spoke. This spoke is crossing that spoke. Even though it's tight behind the flange, it is crossing. So that's one cross. Come here, that's two cross. If it's not crossing the third one, we're gonna push it a little further, and that is the third spoke that is crossing. That is a 3 cross spoke pattern. We're gonna take this spoke, we're gonna let it bend a little bit. We wanna go under this one. Under that one. So it's over, under, and that's what keeps those tight. That spoke came to here. We're gonna skip that one, and then the next hole is right there. Also be careful, there's tension on these spokes, so be careful hitting the rim, because this is how you're gonna scratch rims too. If this is up top, there's a lot of tension, so it's just gonna dig right into that carbon, or even aluminum painted rims. It gets a little tight right here. It gets a little difficult here because the spokes start getting tight, so you don't have as much room down in there. So this is the hardest. See how the dish is obviously way off. There's so much tension here, it's pulling those straight, and since you only have half the spokes on this side, then it pulls it out. So that's why we keep the spokes pretty loose. We have room to actually maneuver the wheel. So this side, spokes are going this way, so we're gonna cross them all the opposite way, so they all cross over. All right, wheel is built. See, not even that crooked with no tension. So that means nothing's over tight. We're gonna push that one to the side and build the back wheel. Drive side, so that is your right side. We're gonna put those right there. The non-drive side and the front hub on the left. Start drive side, this is where the cog is. Shorter spokes, same thing. Drop it in every, doesn't matter where you start, just drop in every other one. So drive side, right side, we're gonna be one to the right of the valve hole. Use the other spokes from the side, the little bit longer spokes. Left, we're gonna look for the hole to the left. We follow that straight down. It's in between these two holes on this side, so we're gonna go right there. Pop it in every other one. Pick that one up, it's just to the left of that spoke. So we're gonna run it up here. Go in your hole. Oh my gosh, that's another. That's 2. Oh my God, that's a 3rd one. What are you doing to me? You know, we're just gonna come back to that one. We're gonna finish the drive side, shorter spokes. So remember we started like this. Flip it over, go through to the inside. Same thing, we're doing a 3 cross. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, and 3. We have a flower pattern. Remember, every other, when you're on one side, it's every other one. Don't go here. If you go here, it's gonna screw you all up. You wanna do like that. Same thing, go on the inside, drop your final 9 spokes through, and we're gonna go 1, 2, recross. Voila, we now have a back wheel. So what I do, notice we didn't put any grease on the spokes and the nipples, but you need them. It's a little drop, doesn't need a lot. I'm gonna grease up every little nipple. Next step, we greased our spokes, everything's together. Now this is a tool that I made. See, it's just a flathead. I took an old flathead and I cut it. So see how it's got those little teeth on it? Or that little tooth thing? So how this works is, one is a little longer than the other, so I have 2 of them. So I'm gonna use the longer one because that way it just does it slowly. You can actually take this same tool and make it for a drill, because the one I have is just a bit and it won't fit down in these rims. So we're gonna do this one by hand. We're gonna tighten every nipple until it doesn't turn anymore. It just started raining, so hopefully you guys can hear me. So with this tip, when you're screwing in the nipple, the end of the spoke is actually gonna hit that tip and push the driver out of the nipple, so you can only tighten it so far. When you tighten every one of them with this to the same point, you're evenly tightening everything. That way the wheel stays straighter, and it's gonna make the truing and the dishing that much easier for you. Back to the valve stem. Start whatever side you want. And now it gets to a point where it can't reach anymore because the spoke has pushed it out. So what I'm gonna do, instead of going to the next one, we wanna spread the load as we tighten it, because if we tighten halfway, it's gonna pull everything to one side, and actually it might get tighter. As it's getting tight here, it's getting really tight over here, and the spokes might not let you use this all the way. So what we're gonna do, where our first hole was right by the valve, we're gonna skip 2 holes. So we're gonna do a third. And now that I skipped 2 and tightened every spoke all the way around, now that I'm back to the valve stem, then start fresh, go to the next hole, do the same thing, and then to the next hole, same thing. So that's 3 different times you're gonna go all the way around. And then your wheel should be pretty damn straight. Hasn't been on a fork, hasn't been on a truing stand. So that's what it should look like if you've done all your spokes pretty even. All right, now we're gonna true it up. I'm gonna keep this going without the truing stand, because I'm gonna assume anyone out there with a truing stand probably knows what they're doing, and if you don't, you gotta use your bike to get it dialed in. So no truing stand for this job. We're gonna, I'm actually gonna put the tires and tubes back on, because airing up the tubes actually can actually get it out of true a little bit. So I'm gonna put all that on, then we're gonna put it on the bike, and we're gonna fine tune and true it up all while it's on the bicycle. All right, so a little tip for you young mechanics out there, or dads who works on your kids' bikes. Number 1 international rule. See that Maxxis logo? Always put the logo over the stem. If you know, you know. Logo always goes over the valve. You need a good race tire that will last you. Maxxis, Torch, or the DTH. I actually usually like to run the DTH in the back. I love the Torch in the front for like cornering. It's got a nice side groove to really kind of get an extra little bit of bite in the turns. But I actually like running the DTH in the rear. So normally with this tire on a nice big aluminum gate, you don't have a problem with traction. But when you get on those concrete ones, it's a little smooth, you need a little more bite. So I actually like using the DTH tire because it's got openings right in the middle groove. So it's got something to really bite on for those slick surface gate starts. I started the first spoke by the valve, and I'm just gonna go through and do 1 full rotation on every spoke to tighten it up. So we start here, that's half, that's full. So we're gonna go through, we're gonna do that on every one. And if it still feels a little loose, we'll go back. If they're really loose, you can feel free to do 2 or 3 full rotations. Those are loose spokes. We want them pretty hard, but not over tight. You want a good push, but you don't wanna have to be sitting there cranking on them. So remember, we greased them up too. We're gonna hook our brakes back up, and we're gonna use the brake pads to act as our truing stand. And what we're looking for is when we spin it, so see how it stops. So what we wanna do, we wanna see what brake pad's touching. So this one is touching my left side, right here. If it's touching on the left side, we wanna pull the spokes on the right side, so it pulls it this way. And it was touching by that spoke, and it was touching about 4 or 5 spokes. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm gonna tighten all 5 of these spokes on the right side to pull the rim away from where it was touching. So we're not touching that, now we're touching there, and that is on the right side. So the paddle's touching on the right side, so I wanna pull the spokes on the left side to pull it away. Keep working at that, like as you spin, just kind of push it a little closer as you go, and just find those little spots, because you want to eventually get it where it's just one long slide, and that's when you know it's like perfectly straight. Just do little steps at a time, because if you crank too much, counter on the other side and mess you up. So I can't stress that enough. Truing the front wheel, you're gonna put a zip tie on both sides of your forks. The zip tie is actually gonna act as your truing stand. So have a set of snips nearby, just under the rim. So you rotate it, and now the zip tie is, see how it touches? It's just at the rim. So it's touching here, so we're gonna pull this. See, now it's not touching. So now we're gonna do that. I'm gonna go around the rim on both sides, make sure it's straight, and then the front wheel is good to go. Wheel build 101 was a success. Shout out to Maxxis Tires for always taking care of me. We're 17 years strong with Maxxis. Whether it's a BMX or a mountain bike, it's all the same concept. So I hope this helped you guys learn how to put your own wheels together. Hope you guys enjoyed. Thanks for tuning in. Give me a like, subscribe. See you in the next video.